and thank you for tuning in to check out my final submission of my course prototype. So before I get going too far in this video, I would like to just note that please watch the first video of my first module before watching this video. For the sake of video length, I'm going to skip over the walkthrough of generally how to use OneNote and the different functions and how to access student notebooks and overall just the layout, because I do talk about that in the first video. So please go back and watch that video before you proceed to watching this one, because in this one I'm going to be more so looking over module 2. Okay, so on the left hand side here there are 4 different general tabs: the collaboration space, the content library, teacher only, and then I have one example student here who is actually one of my fellow colleagues in this class. But he, for this purpose, is going to be my imaginary student, so that you can kind of see what it looks like when you have a student's notebook. If I had a class of, say, 30 kids, all of them would be lined up below here. So the content library is the main hub of information for this course. It is not editable by students unless I push it through into their own notebooks. From there, they are able to add in their assignments and make corrections and additions. And the content library is really just the course itself. Okay, so going in, I do have a few tabs before the first module, and I have my course profile here. So in OneNote, you are able to just input Microsoft documents. So I've done that there. I have a quick introduction that has a link to a video that shows how to use class notebooks. I have an important links tab here where I have a bunch of different links that may be used throughout the course, and I would be adding to this as I would go. So this is a novel study for the Chronicles of Narnia, and primarily I would like people within this course to be having a paper copy of the novel. However, it can be done all online just using the audiobook. So I'm going to jump right to module 2 and go through each one of these tasks with you. So in module 2, the expectation is that it's basically chapter 1 to 3 tasks. There is no major summative assessment for these modules. However, that could be changed depending on how much you're doing, how much material. But for the sake of this novel, it's quite a long novel, so I probably wouldn't have summative assessment for each 3 chapters. It would probably be more like a midway through the novel larger assignment and an end of the novel assignment. However, any of the formative assessment could easily change into summative assessment. So one thing that I did change from my first modules to my second modules is I made it a little bit more clear what the expectation was of the students of what they needed to finish. So I did put in red text anything that could potentially be a summative assessment. And I also added boxes that could be checked to visually show where the students are at and what tasks they are needing to complete. So if we go to chapter 1, it shows right here the link that they have to the first chapter audiobook. And when they finish anything, they can check these boxes off. So this was something new that I did since module 1, and I just think it's a good visual cue for students. And I also could add these these question marks to show where there are questions that they are needing to answer. So a couple guiding questions for while they're listening. And then they're doing a review of story structure. So I inputted here plot pyramid, went through the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution, and what the definitions of those concepts are. And here I have a video about the plot elements for students to watch. This is hyperlinked, so they can watch it directly on this page, or they can open it into a new page. So this first couple chapters do mention the war and air raids. And so the students are to look into what this means. What did you learn from the narrator about when and where the story is taking place? What questions do you have about what you read? Below are some questions you may have. Do you know the answers to these questions? So a few questions here about the reference to the war. So as you can see on OneNote, you can input pictures very easily, change colors of text and font sizes. So there's a little snapshot of history talking about World War II, giving a little bit of context. And then here I have two pictures of London during the war and after the war, and a couple questions that they're going to answer about these pictures. They then have 4 different options for further exploration. And when they do their exploration for this, which is probably just going to be a Google research quick activity, they're going to go onto Padlet and share some of their results and have a bit of a discussion about their findings. Going into the tasks for Chapter 2. So Chapter 2, again, here we have the audiobook for the Chapter 1 and 2. When they complete that, they can check. So they have a couple guiding questions for while they're listening. We talk a little bit about conflict and protagonists and antagonists. So we talk about how the protagonist is often the hero of the story or the main character, and the antagonist is the character or group of characters who opposes or is against the main character or protagonist. So I gave a couple examples here, and then the idea is for the students to think about protagonists and antagonists in novels or in movies that they have read or watched. So I asked them to consider any protagonists and antagonists that come to mind. And then the little assignment here is to go to the collaboration space and insert images of the protagonists and antagonists that you can think of. So they'd be going to this collaboration space up at the top here. And I have a tab for protagonists and antagonists. Now this is just an empty space that students would be able to insert images. So they could put their name beside it, or it could be anonymous. And as they go in, they would see all the things that their peers have added. And going to the Chapter 3 task. So we have our guiding questions, and we have the link here to chapters 3 and 4. Then we talk a little bit about flat and round characters. We explain the definition of this to the students. And here are some of the characters that they've been introduced to so far. Their little assignment here is to circle the character that they're choosing, and then they're going to explain using evidence from the text why this character they believe to be flat or round. So one thing that I didn't show in the first video that is a cool tool that OneNote has is drawing. Now the laptop that I have right now does not have a stylus. However, in the Regina Catholic School Division, every laptop has a stylus available, and this was extremely helpful for marking. You could just go into students' laptops and just like mark directly on the screen, and that was really helpful. Also for designing lessons, it was helpful to circle things or point to things. With that being said, I don't have a stylus right now, so it's a little bit harder, but I can still draw. It just doesn't work as well. But students would circle here, and then they would write below. So one thing that's also great about this is students who have styluses at home and don't like typing, or really like using a pencil and actually writing, but maybe don't want to use actual pencil and a paper just due to the hassle, they can get a stylus and they can do all of their answers actually writing with their stylus. As long as it's neat, I am able to read it, and that's a pretty awesome different adaptation for students that may enjoy that. So here we have a little bit of a table that has quotations from one of the main characters, Edmund, and they're going to fill in the rest of the table, describing what it reveals about the character. So just like how they can draw, students can also, stop drawing. Students can also, and you know what? There we go. Students can also type their answers just directly onto the page here. They can also type directly into the table. When they're finished, they're always checking. And their reader prediction. Here I have input and audio recording. So it is very easy to input audio recordings. You just go insert audio. And so that's the same for the teacher and the student. So my directions here I did on an audio recording. We can listen to that now. Insert an audio recording answering the following questions. First question, what is going to happen to Edmund and Narnia? Second question, what is going to happen next in the story? They would just insert their audio below and check off when they have completed. And finally, their reader's response is going to be what they think about Edmund, if he is a likable character, why or why not. They are going to respond by making a Flipgrid video, and they're going to make sure that they view and comment on their friends' videos as well. The very end of module 2 is a reading check. So this is just to kind of make sure that everyone is on the same page, no pun intended. And just waiting for it to load. Okay, so this is obviously an example of why sometimes this is not the best LMS system, just a little bit laggy. I'm going to try refreshing here. Okay, so there we go. It should be popping up right away. And as you can see, I inserted a Microsoft Word document and it inserted as a printout so students can see right away without actually having to click and open it. And then they can click directly on the page and type their response here. Furthermore, if students didn't like working on the laptop, didn't have a stylus, and they really like using paper and pencil, they are able to double click any of the links and download them onto their computer. They can print them off. And if they wanted to still submit it directly on this page, they could print it off, write their answers, take a picture, and just insert their picture at the bottom here. They would just go insert picture. So there are a lot of things I really like about OneNote, but there are also a lot of things that I would say make it a little bit hard to work with. So when you push through something into the notebook of a student, sometimes it'll duplicate or it won't work. It won't sync where it's lagging, and sometimes it'll happen a few times. There'll be duplicates, but you actually have to go into each student's notebook to delete things. You can't delete from all the students' notebooks at once. That was something that I found to be a little bit troublesome and a bit of a time waster. I also just found that it can be quite laggy sometimes. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to sync. And so these were a couple of things that I found frustrating about this LMS. And something that I would consider in the future would be to work with Moodle for all the investigating and exploring we did in this course. I found that maybe that seemed to me to be the best fit for what I would want in an LMS platform. However, with that all being said, I did really enjoy using OneNote, and it does work very well with the other programs that I do use with students and have in the past. So that is a basic overview of my course. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know. I love getting feedback as it has helped me a lot throughout the semester. So thank you everyone so much.